ये है स्टेट्स मिरर लाइव न्यूज। सुनिए आज की ताजा खबरें। झूठ होगा बेनकाब।
Xi Jinping skipping G20 summit, a deliberate signal to India West. The decision by the Chinese president conveys Beijing's displeasure with the current state of bilateral ties with New Delhi and with what it sees as the politicization of G20, which China believes should be limited to economic issues, say experts. Ananta Krishnan, with Chinese President Xi Jinping skipping a G20 summit for the first time, Beijing is sending deliberate signals to India and the West by essentially downgrading its involvement in a key international forum. According to current and former officials and people familiar with the Beijing's thinking, missing the summit, they said, conveys China's displeasure both with the current state of bilateral ties with India and New Delhi's stand that normalcy in broader ties is not possible without a restoration of peace on the line of actual control. And with what Beijing sees as a politicization of the G20, which it believes should be limited to economic issues and not involve itself with issues such as the war in Ukraine. Beijing offended. No reason on Monday for Mr. Xi's decision to skip the summit. The Chinese Foreign Ministry on Tuesday asked if tensions with India were a factor behind the decision, suggested otherwise, saying that Beijing always attaches high importance to and actively participates in relevant activities. We support India in hosting this year's summit and stand ready to work with all parties to make the G20 summit a success. Spokesperson Mao Ning said, China-India relations have been stable on the whole and our two sides have maintained dialogue and communication at various levels. Mr. Mao added, the continued improvement and growth of China-India relations serves the common interest of the two countries and two peoples. We stand ready to work with India to further improve and advance bilateral relations. The decision, however, was surprising, noted former India ambassador to China Ashok Kanta, considering Mr. Xi attended all previous G20 summits. He attended the 2021 Rome summit virtually and as recently as August 24 travelled to South Africa for the BRICS summit. Health reasons also do not appear to be a factor, with Mr. Xi in the past week meeting the visiting president of Benin in Beijing and also addressing by video a key conference on trade in services. Lack of comfort. So, one presumes it is a deliberate signal both in the bilateral context where there is unhappiness about the present state of relations, and a second aspect is a lack of comfort for China with G20 as a platform. Mr. Kanta said they are sending out signals that they see things with India as not good and that they are not going to go the extra mile to retrieve the situation. Following an informal conversation between Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi in South Africa, both sides put out differing readouts over what was said and then subsequently exchanged sharp barbs. over China's issuing of a new standard map for 2023 on August 28. While the timing, 5 days after the meeting between the leaders, was likely coincidental given the release of the map during what appeared to be a long-planned map awareness publicity week campaign in China by the Ministry of Natural Resources. It was seen by New Delhi as further complicating already sensitive relations amid an unresolved border crisis. Stark contrast, skipping the summit also reflects China's unease with the G20 as a platform and a stark contrast to its investing in other fora such as BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. People familiar with the Beijing's thinking suggest Mr. Xi would have been very likely present in Delhi if India hosted the SCO summit in person, given the importance accorded by Beijing to the China and Russia backed grouping. India decided to host the summit virtually, although it had initially planned for a physical summit in New Delhi. In BRICS, Xi was more comfortable as China was more in a position to influence the agenda and outcomes, Mr. Kanta added. At the G20, there is a much greater pressure on China and Russia. President Vladimir Putin being absent means China will come under pressure. The Chinese feel they are more in control at the BRICS and SCO. Deviation from protocol. Second-ranked leader and Premier Li Qiang will attend the Delhi G20 summit. This is a deviation from standard Chinese protocol with a clear division of responsibility in the Chinese system when it comes to international meetings. The president as head of state usually attends the G20 and APEC summit. Mr. Xi is expected to travel to the US in November. For the latter, the Premier usually attends the East Asia Summit, which Mr. Lee is participating in this week in Indonesia before traveling to New Delhi. Both attend the SCO, where there are separate HOs and head of government meetings. That practice is maintained very clearly and they don't ordinarily deviate from it. Mr. Kanta noted, so this is not a routine decision and it is clearly well thought out. India and Bharat interchangeable can be used in official invite, say legal experts. An official invitation from President Draupadi Murmu to G20 guests in which he is described as the President of Bharat has triggered speculation that the Narendra Modi government could officially change the name of India to Bharat during the 5-day long special session of Parliament that starts on September 18. While the issue has predictably sent political temperatures soaring, there is ambivalence within the legal fraternity on whether a constitutional amendment is required for a change of name. The fact is that the terms Bharat and India can be used interchangeably, especially in view of the authorized Hindi version of the Indian Constitution. The government cannot stipulate that everyone use only one name, either is permissible and usable interchangeably. Senior Supreme Court advocate and Congress member Abhishek Singhvi told The Hindu. Mr. Singhvi, who is also a former chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Law and Justice, said an amendment would be required only if the government insisted on the use of any one term or wanted to remove a particular term. Former Additional Solicitor General and Senior Supreme Court Advocate Amman Lekhi said it was officially the Republic of India, and even the G20 presidency was known as the Indian presidency. He said that any change of name would require a constitutional amendment under Article 368. The change is possible, but is it necessary? There are certain things that should be free of controversy, and the name of the country should highest in that list, Mr. Lekhi said. Unless any intention to the contrary is made explicit, the terminology is only a question of semantics, and at this stage there is no need to read anything sinister. Former law. Minister Ashwini Kumar said, another top constitutional expert who did not wish to be named said there was nothing wrong in sending an invitation as the President of Bharat. However, it should not be seen as the first step towards doing away with the use of English language. Article 348 of 1 of the Constitution states that all proceedings in the Supreme Court and in every High Court shall be in English language until Parliament passes a law. The experts noted, adding, if they want to pass such a law, then that would be a federal issue. The debate over the language of government bills started last month after Union Home Minister Amit Shah introduced the Bharatiya Nagarika Suraksha Sanhita and the Bharatiya Sakshya Bill in the Lok Sabha to replace the Indian Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure and the Evidence Act respectively has to be changed. Thank you very much to everyone.
ये थे आज की धमाकेदार खबरें। झूठ होगा बेखा। इन खबरों को लाइक करें, शेयर करें और सब्सक्राइब करें। थैंक्स टू ऑल व्यूअर्स।